Hey everyone, quick message up top before we get into the episode. We're going to talk about a few different things. One thing we mentioned that I got wrong that I want to clear up is Michael is having a sale on his ebook for The Eternal Crown, Dawning of the Red Sun. You can find that on his website, and it's on sale. Now, later in the episode, I'm going to say it's on sale until the end of April, but turns out I'm wrong. That's right. Even podcasters make mistakes. Isn't that right, New Cat? Rubbing against the microphone. Perfect. Anyway, so yes, it's still 40% off, but instead of being on sale until the end of April, it's actually on sale for 40% off until the end of April 23rd. So a little bit shorter of a timetable to get that book, and I definitely think you should, because Michael writes good stuff, and he's a good guy, and you support a good business. So just mention it again. New Cat, come on, man. I'm in the middle of a promo. You're so cute. Anyway, if you want to pick up Michael's ebook, it's on sale for 40% off until the end of April 23rd. You just use the promo code TEC40. That's TEC40. 40, I should mention. So yes, TEC40 for an extra 40% off the ebook. And you just do that on Michael's website. I'll leave a link that takes you directly there. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Also, I'm doing this while Higgins is outside. I'm in his household. I could be doing anything I want, and he has no idea. He doesn't even know that this is happening. So he'll probably be pretty surprised when he listens back. Higgins, if you are listening back, I definitely didn't steal any food out of your fridge. All right, New Cat. Thanks for your help. On with the show. Higgins, go ahead and intro, if you don't mind me taking the reins here.
Hey man, go ahead and do that thing.
That's perfect, because I like for all of us really to take a moment and reflect on what we're doing this weekend. Because, as you know, Higgins, there's no better time than podcasting time, right?
Yeah, no, I look forward to it every month.
Every month, at least once a month, yeah. And there's no better person to podcast with than you, but also
thanks.
a special guest.
Special guest?
Yeah, Steve Kiker, he's here. Say hey, Steve.
Hey, how's it going? Oh, thanks, guys. That's so kind words.
Yes, exactly.
Kind words.
I mean, you deserve them. Absolutely.
Our first 3-time guest now.
Yeah, potentially 4, potentially 3. I don't know. We drink a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with things. So yes, no better time than podcasting time. No better person to podcast with than Steve. And there's no better way to podcast than shirtless.
Shirtless, you're right.
So just give me a second.
Oh, that's a pretty good mic sound.
Thank you. I was going for that. All right. Well, you're already shirtless, Higgins. That's good.
Yeah.
You know what's on the up and ups.
I
Now we're
pretty
just waiting
much-
for Steve.
Oh, I guess. Okay, hold on.
A little peek behind the curtain. I'm
Yeah,
always
let's-
shirtless when
why
we
don't
record.
we
We
all,
just
right?
never mentioned it before now.
Well, it's never really kind of come into play until
All
just
right.
now.
Shirtless.
He's definitely shirtless. All right, which means we're ready.
I can see that seagull tattoo that he's got on his chest.
Thank you.
And his perfectly normal nipples. Nothing to talk about there.
Don't say that. They aren't. I mean, they are normal. Don't say that.
Yeah, perfectly normal.
Like the finest penny you find on the street.
And I'll say this: the exact right amount of shades darker than the rest of my skin.
Ugh, that's what makes them stand out so well. All right,
Not too
I think
light,
we're
not too dark.
I think we're ready to get started then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Let's crack open this beer, fellas. Love that. Take a sip, everyone. Because guess what? This is the Comixology Club. It's a podcast where I, Snoop Lunch, and my co-host Higgins Stern.
Hey, that's me.
He is right over there, shirtless as always. And as mentioned before, we have special guest Steve Kiker here.
Oh, hey.
Sorry, you're not used to that, but I call out the name so that you can say something. And
He's our
you've done that, so thank you.
special guest.
Exactly. The specialist guest, probably the most recurring guest on this podcast.
So far.
He's been there since episode 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so give him a round of applause for that, Higgins.
Actually, I think it was episode 2. And
Yeah,
we did
that's right. We did
that
Weave
joke
3.
where we said all the 3 stuff.
Oh my god, that's such a
Yeah.
good joke.
Oh,
I hope we can get just as good jokes this episode out of you.
Yeah.
But first,
want to live up to.
let's take a moment and tell Steve about our sponsor, 008 Studios.
Yeah, we can do that. You know, I don't know if you've ever wanted to make a thing, Steve, a book, a video game, a movie short video thing.
Oh, that's so funny because I'm in an industry such as one of those.
And we got the thing for you.
Okay, tell
Our
me
buddy
about it.
Michael has made a business where he helps people make those things, and he also makes those things,
Movies, books, games,
except
etc.?
music,
The works. Yeah.
not music.
Wow.
Get
Not
that out
music.
of your head.
Gone.
All right.
Excellent.
But yeah, you can go on there. He knows how to find editors for you, publishers. He can put your book on his shop. He can get it in the stores. He can do a lot of stuff for you. All you got to do is email him.
That's absolutely right.
One
Higgins.
email, and I've got a whole bag of tricks.
Yeah, a whole bag of
Yeah.
tricks.
No worries about it. He takes care of everything. And as Higgins mentioned, he does his own thing. He's written his own book, Steve. It's called The Eternal Crown: Dawning of the Red Sun.
I've seen that book lying around, and it looks. I'll tell you, I've thought about picking it up. Reading is difficult, but I've thought about picking it up and giving it a go.
Well, Steve, it's funny you mentioned that because there's a perfect time to give it a go, and it's right now until the end of April. Because Michael is he's in a lot of things right now. He's got projects all in the works. We'll talk about it the next few months probably. One thing he's currently doing is, Higgins, I don't even think you know this yet.
I don't.
He's entered some kind of contest tournament thing
Oh, I
through
do
a
know
company
about that.
called Pioneer. Do you know who
Pioneer.
Pioneer is?
I've not heard of it.
Me either.
Do you mean like those who sailed over on the Mayflower?
Yeah, but like with fresh, hot content.
And for businesses.
And for business purposes. Yeah, so basically, the way that Michael has explained this, and I'm going to butcher my paraphrasing of it, but Pioneer is a company that will take startups, such as Michael's business, 008 Studios. You get points, you do video updates, you talk to the people, let them know what's going on, and then they vote on it, and you get points for that, right? Well, the goal is to get into the global top 50. Now, Michael's he's right there.
Right on the cusp.
He's right there, yeah. He's already like number 19 or 18 in the U.S. East region as of this point. And the next step is to hit that global mark. And if he gets in the top 50 global, they take 20 of those people and they give them each a $20,000 grant to put towards their own projects.
Oh, exciting.
So really good for him. And like I said, he's moving up the charts so quick and fast. And for that reason, he's decided to put his own book on sale on the site. So right now, until the end of April, you can get The Eternal Crown: Dawning of the Red Sun off of his site, the ebook version, I should say. So if you're a fan of turning those actual pages, you're going to have to go to barnesandnoble.com and order print on demand. But if you are fine with the ebook, Steve, and you want to read it, you can get, and I'm quoting here, a whooping 40% off using the code TEC40.
TEC 40?
Yes.
On
his website,
On his website.
008studios.com.
0-0-8studios.com.
That's absolutely
At
right,
that.
Higgins. Yes. And if you don't want to remember that URL, you don't have to. I will put a link to that in the description notes of this podcast episode below.
the number 0, or do I spell it out? The numbers.
I think it's the number 0. You don't spell 0. Yeah.
Yeah, the
wouldn't.
number 0.
I wouldn't.
That's a good question, though,
I can't
Steve.
spell
yeah,
it.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to. Again, you click on the link at the bottom of this podcast description, and it takes you right there. Then you put in that code, TEC40, and you get 40% off the ebook version of The Eternal Crown: Dawning of the Red Sun. Now, Higgins and I have talked to Michael extensively about this book. You can listen to that episode if you want, Steve, but do it after you've read the book, of course.
Number 37.
And where can I vote for our own Christopher Columbus?
Well, so that's the more complicated part. We actually don't get to vote for him. It's more of the other companies vote on each other. So they're competing, but they're also helping each other.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna probably come back with later updates on Michael's standing in that whole Pioneer program. And there's plenty of other projects that are currently in the works that are getting somewhere, which we'll talk about later. I actually earlier this week I filmed some videos for Michael that we're gonna edit and then put on his YouTube channel. And eventually, and I don't know if Higgins knows this, we're going to take all of our podcast episodes and any future episodes and put a audio version on his YouTube channel. So you can go to the 008 Studios YouTube channel and you'll find stuff like video updates on projects from Michael and our podcast episodes.
With a picture.
Yeah, we'll have a little, our little podcast artwork logo. It'll be right there. You listen to it, you watch it, and maybe one day you'll see our actual faces on that YouTube channel. Maybe
Wow.
not.
Yeah, that's the other thing I think he told me. Like, if he gets this, we might be able to, get us a little studio, maybe. Or at least, like, a room that we can dedicate to, like, podcasting.
That's true. Yeah, he's got a big, comfy couch for us, and in his space that we
Yeah.
can sit on and do some video content. We'll get there one day, I think. But
Yeah.
more importantly, like I said, you want that book. There's never been a better time to buy it. He says that the promo code is active until the end of April, and it's just a way to thank any and everyone for his progress he's making in the Pioneer program, and just give back, because that's the kind of guy that Michael is. He gives back to the people. He gives back to us on this podcast. Just a really good guy running a really good business. So yeah, just good stuff.
Exciting. I can't wait to find out more.
Well, Steve, you listen to this, you probably will.
Okay.
That's not a promise, but
A threat.
exactly. But let's move on.
To the meat and potatoes of this thing,
That's
or I
right.
guess the flapjacks of this organization.
And they're no small flapjacks.
Not at all, because we're talking about a really big man in this month's book, which is called Shirtless Bear-Fighter.
Shirtless
Volume 1.
Bear-Fighter
Shirtless bear.
with an exclamation
Fighter?
point.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the book you read, right, Steve?
I read Shirtless Bear-Fighter.
Without the exclamation point?
It had
With a
it was
question
mark. Maybe a sequel, maybe a prequel. Ooh, I hope okay. Well, let's.
I think
Plow
there's
ahead.
I think there's a world, a big, vast world of shirtless bear fighting ahead of us in the future, because this book is pretty recent, but it's made quite the impression on a lot of people. Higgins, you picked this book. Do you know who wrote this book, though?
I can tell you right now because I'm looking at it, but I didn't know before just now.
That's okay. You know now, so tell us.
Jody Lee Hoyp,
I like to say Jody LaHupe.
LaHoyt? Maybe
Yeah.
Jody LaHoyt?
and Sebastian Gerner,
Yes, with
and there's also Nil Vindrel.
those are the three co-creators of the story. Jody LaHupe and Sebastian Gerner, they were on writing, and Nil Vindrel was on art. And then you've also got some credits going to people like Mike Spicer, who did the colors. But like I said, those three are the main driving force behind this idea. This came out originally from June 2017 to October 2017. This first volume makes up 5 issues that we're going to talk about today. This was published by Image Comics. Higgins and I, big fans.
Yeah,
Of course.
probably my favorite comic people.
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with just kind of, they keep things fresh, don't they?
They don't really just do superhero stuff,
Wow,
which
what else?
which I like.
What else have they done?
So many things.
God, so
We
many
just did
things we talked
Saga
about.
the other month, Paper Girls, other people that write books besides Brian K. Vaughan.
Yes, yeah. We've kind of talked, Higgs and I have talked about it before when we've done some of their past work. I don't know if you know a ton about Image and kind of how it started. Short version is basically a bunch of people from mostly Marvel, artists in particular, kind of left and started this publishing company. And the whole idea of it is to give creators say over, and the money over their own projects. So people come to Image with their comic ideas, and they're the creators. They get to decide what happens with these characters and worlds after they write the first project or whatever. So it's a big draw, and a lot of it just has to do with the fact that, like, back in the day, people like Todd McFarlane, who did Spawn, Jim Lee, who did a bunch of Batman, DC stuff, they kind of felt like they weren't getting the credit where credit's due, and so they branched off and started this, and it's probably one of the biggest publishers besides DC and Marvel.
I'd call it the third biggest.
Yeah. So really just great stuff coming out of this, and a lot of that has to do with, again, it's geared towards the people coming in to create these comics, and that is why Jody LaHupe and Sebastian Gerner approached Image with this initial pitch. I did a little bit of deep diving to kind of figure out where this idea came from. So both Jody LaHupe and Sebastian Gerner were both editors at Marvel Comics. So they're the guys, you take the stories to them, they give you some notes, maybe like, hey, Spider-Man talks more like this, or Daredevil punches like that, and they just kind of help finalize the comic. Sebastian Gerner worked on Punisher Max series, which is probably the most famous Punisher storyline. And then Jody LaHupe has a big kind of back catalog of stuff on X-Men and Deadpool. But like a lot of people at those bigger publishers, they kind of got burned out, and so they wanted to step away, and they talked about writing. They lived together for a little bit.
Oh, well, that's
actually.
cool.
So
Hey, we lived together for a little bit.
yeah, we don't like
actually.
to talk about that though. Yeah.
Those were dark times.
Yes, we'll talk about it later if we like set this up behind a paywall. People can get all those juicy details. But yes, so they lived together for a little bit while they were working at Marvel, and this idea, if you can believe it, just kind of came from late night talks and pitching to each other about weird comic stuff. The book we're talking about is Shirtless Bear-Fighter. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's about a guy who is shirtless and fights bears.
If he has his druthers, he's completely naked too.
Yes, he prefers it that way. So they took that
with this huge hog hanging out.
It's massive.
It's censored though, so don't worry, guys. It's children friendly.
Your young,
For the
your
most
young
part.
children, Johnny, Sally can read and will enjoy.
Or at least look at the pictures and not see a penis.
Yeah, well, not the full thing.
They'll get an idea.
Oh, certainly an idea. So yes, they kind of just took it to Image, and Image was, of course, interested from the beginning based on the title alone. And once they kind of explained what they wanted to do with this story, it just sealed the deal, and they let them do their thing. 5 issues in and out. There is a sequel on the way this year.
I think Shirtless Bear-Fighter 2's already got a few
Started.
issues.
Nice. And I'm honestly like just really looking forward to getting into that, because after reading this story and just taking it as it is for what it is, I had a really fun time with this.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know exactly what to expect. I started reading it like in 2017 when I lived in Nebraska, and like I don't know what made me think of it other than that Cocaine Bear movie that I still haven't watched, but
Maybe a little bit more on that later.
yeah, maybe. Wink. Nod.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked this, because it was something that when it came out at the time, I was of course interested, because it's just, you read that title, you want to know what's going on here, and I never, for whatever reason, I never went into it, and so you picked it for this. Really great time. Now, Steve, we talked a little bit the other week, and I don't think you hated this, but I do think that your opinions are a little different than, say, mine and Higgins. So how do you feel about this story as a whole?
So I did like it. As like, okay, for a comic titled Shirtless Bear-Fighter, you're getting exactly what you pay for, exactly what you're reading. There's nothing else to expect, and maybe that was my mistake, is that I was expecting something more. Again, great comic, it's fine, but I think, I don't know, there were some things, particularly as far as like the depth of the story, where I was like a little disappointed. I don't want to say shallow, but I can't think of another word.
I think that's a pretty fair kind of
But of course,
description.
like, again, if you're reading a comic called Shirtless Bear-Fighter, you know, you're not, I can't imagine you're going to, you should expect something like a ton of depth or twists and turns. You still get,
Man, there's some twists.
there's some twists and some turns, but
and some character development too.
yeah, yeah. That, I think another thing was, I don't know, we can get into it as we progress through, but some sort of maybe like what felt forced as far as some certain character development.
Oh, forced bear puns too.
No, I never got tired of the bear puns.
That is the shining diamond in the story, is the bear puns. Yeah, I believe all of that, and I agree with all that. It is very much a surface level story. It has more heart and depth than I necessarily would have thought going in, but it is just barely there.
Oh, that's just awful.
Nice.
I can't believe you just did that.
Thank you. Not even on purpose, actually, if you can believe it.
No, own it.
So, and I think that has to do with kind of the intention of the story itself. The main goal of Sebastian Gerner and Jody LaHoop, like the main thing they wanted to do, because this is actually both of them, this is their first comic that they've written. They hadn't written before this. They had worked as editors, as I mentioned, but this is the first thing that they're like, no, we're going to write this. And it came from just kind of goofing around and pitching ridiculous ideas. And they wanted to tell a story with a character that has some heart, but the goal was to tell a story that riffs off of things that they love. The biggest influence being stuff from like action movies from the 80s. If we got someone to play this character in a movie and we could choose any time or person, they were thinking someone like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s, in their prime.
Oh,
And there was a ton of heart.
That makes sense. Like every time like something gets hit, it says like bear punch or bear kick or
Yeah, and their idea is they wanted to have fun, and they wanted people to have fun. And Higgins and I have talked about this in the past before, that while we love some of those darker, kind of more harrowing comic storylines, the reason we even got into comics was because
it's a medium that at its best is ridiculous and enjoyable. And that's what they wanted to kind of bring their first story back to, is they wanted to take tropes from those 80s action movies that they loved and just play with that. It's just a big sandbox for them to kind of riff off of. And I think that if that's the story that they really wanted to kind of set out and make, it's 100% exactly what they did. It is very much just way over the top and so unbelievable, but it has enough fun with that, and even the characters in the story themselves kind of pick fun at it while also playing it completely straight.
One of my favorite moments of that happening are towards the later end. I don't know how you guys normally go through these things.
We just kind of jump around at this point.
and
Yeah,
Perfect, because
that's what you're gonna do.
exactly. So towards the later end of the comic, there's a big old fight scene between the bears and we haven't even really gotten to the story, but the Charmin stand-in. The bears get in a fight with the Charmin stand-in.
I didn't even really think about the fact that that's what that probably is.
Oh, 100%, right? One of my favorite moments is these three sort of loggers, because they work as loggers for this, or hired by this sort of toilet paper company, which I guess aims to be something more than it is. These three loggers are talking about how they're getting mistreated by their boss, and how, golly, they should have just worked as comic book editors this entire time. They should have just done comic book editors.
Yes.
And I love little moments like that. And another one where I think the same three guys said, it's the horde of bears riding on 18-wheeler trucks with trailers. And they say, this is exactly what the psychic said would happen. And just the moments like those that I really love, just ridiculous, like, that really take you out of it. You're reading this comic and you get pulled in, and then immediately you're taken out by this just one-off line that comes out of nowhere and hits you like a ton of bricks, and you just have to laugh at the absurdity of it. And you're like, yeah, this is just a comic where, bears are fighting dudes are fighting bears.
Yes, and the villain is a toilet paper company who just wants to cut down the forest and make their money.
Yeah, his name's Jackson Logger too.
Yeah.
Jackson Logger. I think,
Which is like a poop joke, a tree joke.
I never thought about the poop joke, which is so funny because
He's always dropping
He's
logs.
always pooping. He's always pooping.
That's why he wants to get all that toilet paper.
That is so, oh man, guys, I gotta. Whew,
Yeah,
I really
never thought about that. Oh,
really hope that those three guys are just full on stand-ins for like the creators.
they are, yeah.
If they look exactly like them. I don't know. I'll have to look at pictures of them, but I'm sure that's what it is.
No, I think you're right. I believe that they do kind of
Favor.
look very similar to the three co-creators that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, and that's a perfect example of kind of those moments that they're meant to take you out of the story, because in the context of the story, it's serious. These are terrible things happening. People are murdered, feelings are hurt, anger, rage, it's all there. But it is at its core the most ridiculous thing you could ever read. And so to have a person just kind of just step in out of nowhere and just point it out, like, it doesn't happen a lot, which I appreciate, but when it does happen, it's very well done. One of my favorite moments or I guess one of my favorite examples of that is there's a character in this who constantly refers to all the wars he's been in.
Oh yeah, and he's like, "How old are you?"
Oh God, what's his name?
Burke.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like anything that happens with these bears, any situation that's going on, he somehow finds a way to bring it back to World War II, the Vietnam War, the Cold War,
the War of Southern Aggression,
yeah,
or Northern Aggression, which was my favorite.
It's your favorite war. You love war.
It's my favorite war, and also just to to give you an idea of how either old or insane this guy is.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War one was probably my favorite.
It was pretty good.
It's just not to jump you off your train, Snoop, but
you're good.
He's like in the thick of it in Vietnam, and then like this panda shows up, and like he's got a knife, and then all of a sudden the panda also has a knife, and he's about to fight him, and I was like, it's already a bear, but it's funny that he has a knife.
He also has a knife, yeah.
And then the gal comes back and she says,
Susie.
there's not pandas in Vietnam, and Shirtless Bear-Fighter's like, not
anymore.
anymore.
I love that line. I was cracking up. I had to shut the comic and leave it alone for a bit.
Yeah.
It made me cry.
It's really, really fun, and it plays off all these tropes of all these movies and like all these action comics of the past of like there is a guy like that in every single one of these stories who just constantly flashes back to all the wars he's been in, and this guy's somehow old enough to have been in every war but also still serving as an agent.
Oh yeah,
and
he
that
strikes me as Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah,
Basically,
he's that guy.
Yeah.
And I love too the Susie, who is sort of the straight man of the comic. Every time she tries to rein it in and bring things back to reality, she's either cut off or just told no. It's not how. No,
they ignore her. Yeah, it's more like she's really just saying that for the reader. But anytime she tries to kind of bring it to light in the context of the story, everyone just kind of brushes her off.
I love that. Too many creators of things like this feel like they have to, I don't know, sort of explain away or to acknowledge when they latch onto tropes or sort of take things out of the realm of reality, and you don't need to. And so they sort of acknowledge it and then immediately detract from the fact that they acknowledged it by just further doubling down on the absurdity of it. And I really appreciate that.
It works really well to have a story like this that is at its heart, it's a comedic book. It's meant to entertain you, make you smile, make you laugh. But like I said, they play it 100% serious the entire time. And that's kind of the harder way to go about it, to write a comedy book. It's like the easy way would just to write these jokes and have the characters in on it, like how ridiculous this is. But it's more fun to look at it in the lens of like, no, in this world, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to these people. And even though there are characters that kind of pick up on that, how, this is very silly, we still, the story itself is engrossed in, this is some bad stuff happening. And like Steve said, we haven't really gotten into the story. And I guess if you don't mind, I'll give a quick little synopsis.
Yeah, hit that synopsis.
Yeah, so this is on the back of the book. It basically says that after being betrayed by the bears that raised him, the legendary Shirtless Bear-Fighter wanders the forest he's sworn to protect, fist-fighting bears, eating flapjacks, and being the angriest man the world has ever known. When wild-eyed, super-strong bears attack the citizens of Major City, Shirtless, that's his first name, by the way. I don't think we've talked about that. His name is literally Shirtless.
Just call him Shirtless.
Yeah, he ventures into the human world to do what he does best, punch those bears in the face. But all is not as it seems. Someone is manipulating Shirtless, and only by confronting his demons of his past can Shirtless hope to save his future.
Oh man!
So
if I had read that synopsis, then I might have known where the story was going a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, you had no time. You were taking your shirt off when that happened. Yeah. And that brings us to our main character, which is Shirtless. He's the one we follow this whole time.
Very manly man.
The most badass.
Kind of cut off Gene Capri's.
Yeah. All held together by a belt of rope.
Yeah, that's one of my, like, just a simple character design, but and we haven't really talked a ton about the art, but Nil Vendrell does everything on this. I think he's a perfect fit for a story like this. And it's crazy because this also is his first comic. The only thing he had really done before this was just like web art on Twitter, and for whatever reason he got in contact with the other two creators and just went for it. And I imagine a lot of people would have kind of shied away from a book like this being their first comic, because you have to draw some just ridiculous stuff while also kind of maintaining the tone of the story that the writers are telling. Like, they want this to kind of be full of heart and be serious in the story, but you are supposed to kind of deliver it with undertones of comedy. And everything from the character designs to the action sequences and how they're laid out and framed in the panels, he kills it for me. And I just didn't think that a first-time artist, coming in on a comic for Image would have been able to do this as well as he did.
My favorite thing that he did, there's like no words except for the towns that they're in. It's like just Shirtless fighting a bunch of bears in different cities. And also, like, probably the funniest joke in like the entire book for me. He's like starts out just like fighting bears in like Texas, and he's like fighting some circus bears, and he's fighting some bears in New Orleans with beads and drinks, and then he's fighting like stuffed bears.
Yeah.
And then he's fighting the Chicago Bears, the football players.
The Chicago Cubs, yeah.
No, the Chicago
Oh, the
Bears.
Chicago Bears. Okay.
Yeah, that's the
I don't know
football
any
team
different
name.
teams.
I don't know anything about basketball.
Oh, good. Football.
Yeah, and then he goes to San Francisco and he fights a bunch of gay
Yeah,
guys.
the Bears in the
burly,
gay community.
burly gay bearmen. Which
Yeah.
Then that
I loved that.
that part cracked me up.
I think
I-
that was the moment when I was like, oh, this is going to be a little more silly than I thought, than I expected. And I love that.
Yeah, and it's all the art on that. Like, there's no dialogue. It's literally a montage. Like, you turn the page, it just, like Steve says, it escalates, and he did that. Obviously, I'm sure that the other writers kind of gave him that direction, but it works so well, and I like that for both the writers and the artist here. They can take a scene like that and then also switch over to something horrifying. Like, the reason the Shirtless is the way he is because the love of his life was killed by his brother bear or whatever in the past. It completely flips that tone into like, oh, this is really sad that this happened to this guy who was just,
Oh yeah.
he met this girl in the woods, like this perfect dream girl, and he loves her and she loves him, and it was taken away from him by his family, and it completely changes his outlook on life and turns him into the ridiculous angry man that he is. And for it to only be 5 issues, like, the thing is, there is a Shirtless Bear-Fighter 2, and I don't know kind of where it's going because I haven't read it yet, but this story by itself is open, close, done. And
Yeah.
in just 5 issues, they introduced us to a character who is probably one of the dumbest characters I've probably read about in comics. It made me feel for what's happened to him
Yeah,
in
I
his
know, it's so
past.
sad for him.
And it's just it's a good team up of first time writers and a first time artist coming to Image, and just they have an idea and they know exactly what they want to do with it, and they just roll with it, and with no shame. To have Shirtless be the manliest of men, I think even the Burke guy is just like, he says something like, every now and again God makes a man that's too much of a man.
Yeah.
And a mistake. God makes a mistake and makes a man too much of a man.
Yeah, exactly. And he's 100% right. Like, this is the manliest man that's ever existed in
and
our
the
world.
manliest baby.
When he's born, he's got full beard, full hair, hanging
Full
brain.
hog. Yeah, full hog.
Absolute whole hog.
It's as long as the baby.
When people say baby arm, it's an understatement.
Yeah, and they take us on this journey with this character who has kind of fallen from grace, and he has to build himself back up, and he has to learn to let go of that rage. And you feel for him 100% of the way. And even though you're laughing at everything that's happening, because it is just the weirdest story that you're reading ever, probably, you still feel for him, and you feel for the people around him and kind of what led to the situation he's in. Like, he fell in love with the sister of the villain of the story, who's the Charmin stand-in, like Steve mentioned, and that guy is just a cackling Bond villain, essentially. Like, he even has gloves for no reason, and he's always shitting in golden toilets.
He has bear prisoners with jobs wipe his ass.
Yeah.
His bum.
Yeah, and bring the toilet to him. Like, he literally just starts unbuckling his pants, and then they bring
And
a
they
toilet
bring it. They
before.
know- they've
and he
seen
sits
this.
he sits down before, like, doesn't even ask him to bring it. He just pulls down his pants and sits, and
Well, this
then
ain't
there's a
their-
golden toilet sitting there for him.
This ain't their first rodeo.
No, it's not hooked up to anything either, so someone has to dump that out and then clean it themselves.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Poor bears.
Yeah, and he's not the most compelling villain in this story. I think that probably goes to Shirtless's brother bear character, who is just kind of jealous and ends up cultivating into this message of like, no, you need to let go of the anger in your past, and otherwise it's going to consume you. And eventually, in the case of brother bear, it literally kills him, because he's hated Shirtless from the day that he was brought into the village, because they seemed to like him more, and he couldn't let it go, and it leads to his death. And Shirtless has to learn to let his anger go, because he used to live with the bears, and he turned on them after his past love, I think it was like Clementine, maybe.
Clementine.
She's killed, and then you find out it's this whole conspiracy that the Jackson Logger guy kind of set up. Like, he set his sister up to die. It gets real dark very quickly at the end, and it's a nice juggling of, okay, this is a comedy, first and foremost, but we can also kind of tug at your heartstrings a little bit. And I imagine that, like, for a lot of first-time writers, they wouldn't have been able to do as nice of a job as this. It's not perfect by any means, but it is perfect at what it wants to do, and that's just be a fun comic that has a little bit of heart and depth in it.
And I'll say I like the kind of trope of henchman villain being the main villain, sort of like a Darth Vader thing that they did with Brother Bear, where Darth Vader was he was by all rights Palpatine's henchman. He was his enforcer, and sort of the same thing with Jackson Logger and Brother Bear. Jackson Logger is sort of the head guy, but Brother Bear is his enforcer. But the enforcer becomes the main villain by just, I guess, sort of sheer strength and size and having a larger sort of plan in mind than the guy with the plans.
The logger guy, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's one of the few bears that isn't controlled by the magic bacon too.
that's true.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the magic bacon.
That's a whole other thing in and of itself.
There's a hillbilly pig wizard that makes magic bacon that mind controls people. So
My favorite part is where he talks about his hog teats.
oh yeah, just lathering them up.
Yeah, with butter or whatever.
There's like
It's just-
he's got like a row of like 8 of them.
Yeah.
and one of
That
them's got a
character really
nipple
grossed me
ring.
out. I don't know. I didn't like it. It really grossed me out.
He gets his in the end though, and that's I think what this story kind of needed at the very end is it does wrap itself up very neatly. You could complain it like too neatly because it seems like Shirtless and Brother Bear's dad, Papa Bear actually, yeah. It seems like he gets killed and in the end he's just fine. Just got a bad cut on his back probably, but it almost does need that very nice, neat, happy ending because when you think about all the past stuff that led up to this, it feels like that the characters need a win, and I'm glad they get it. Kind of going back to the dynamic between Jackson Logger and the Brother Bear character, I really like kind of how they handled that. Of they still hate each other very much, but they work together out of necessity, and because they have a common enemy, which is Shirtless.
Yeah, I'll say it's interesting. I didn't really like, I think alone, I didn't like either of those characters by themselves, but together, I liked the dynamic that they had. That was what I think compelled me about the sort of antagonist.
Yes,
as a force.
Yeah, it's a means to an end for both of them, you know? Like, the thing is, Jackson Logger still thinks that all of these bears, even the ones that work for him, mind-controlled or otherwise, like, they're just stupid animals. And we know that's not the case, and obviously Brother Bear, leading the rest of them, knows it's not the case, but he knows that to get his revenge that he's just so obsessed over, he does need this guy. And it does lead to their ruin, and it's sad for the character of the brother because you can tell that no one kind of wanted things to go this way for him. You know, he gets crushed at the end and he dies, like, but they still give him a grave at the very end of the story and like visit it from time to time because they're just like, I think even on the tombstone it says like, may he finally find peace or something. So
He's just angry his whole life.
yeah, and that also does really well when you think about kind of what Shirtless has been going through, and he was this close to turning into that. He had to, and that's what his dad told him, you have to let go of what happened in the past. It may not be right, but you have to let go of it, otherwise you're going to end up just like him. And luckily, he was able to kind of move forward and both protected the forest, which is what he sworn to do, and then at the end, he goes off with his potentially new love interest.
Oh, gets the gal that kind of reminds him of his former wife a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
May I?
Of course.
I didn't, that,
It's
Okay.
a weird change.
Susie, okay, so the character Susie is and sort of agent, are they like FBI, they're a special task force or something, part of the military?
Like CIA
Yeah, they stop
or
bear.
something.
They stop
yeah.
bear.
It seems like they specifically work to stop bear attacks.
Bear
And
attacks a
Susie, who
bear?
I do like the character of, I think she's a badass. There's a sort of moment in, they felt there was a necessity, or maybe it's something I'm just not getting, a part of the satire, in which Susie and Shirtless have a sort of intimate moment that seems sort of like it came about from nowhere. There was no sort of lead up to it. They were of opposite gender, so they had to have this sort of like relationship that I don't know, felt came out of nowhere.
I think it's just another '80s action movie trope where like
Yeah,
the
guy gets
hardened
the girl.
the hardened like maybe not so good like cop guy in like those '80s action movies like ends up getting together with the harsh lady cop.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
They're
it's one
like,
of those
oh,
tropes.
they don't seem like they'd be together by the end of it. And then they're like, just kind of flirting back and forth.
She talks about her super hot outfit.
Yeah. I don't know. It just some of that just felt forced. I liked both of the characters. I didn't like
that conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of with Higgins on that, where I justify it as like, oh, this is just another 80s action trope of like the kind of buttoned down, straight laced female cop just really embraces her hotness, and then also has a thing for the guy with the 13-inch dong.
Why wouldn't you? Of course.
Yeah.
She didn't like it at first, though. To be fair, like the first time she saw it, she turned away and said, like,
it's indecent.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
One thing I did like, though, that they did do with her character pretty much throughout the story up until the very end is she is a character in her own right. Like, there's a reason that she got into the field that she's in, and it's because she cares about helping people. There's a really good kind of flashback moment where she's a child and her cat runs up into a tree, and she goes to save it and ends up falling and breaking her arm and leg, and also gets like a scar on her lip that we had seen before. And you're like, oh, that's the reason she has the scar. But the moment itself that I really liked is the Shirtless's Mama Bear asks, well, hey, like, what happened to the cat? And then it's just a quick little panel of her and the cat hanging out in her bedroom, where she's like got a cast on her arm and leg, but the cat's okay. And, she's smiling. It, is a moment that, like, this happened to me, and it is a definitive moment for me, but in a positive way. Like, I helped this cat, it's okay, and we're okay. So I like those little moments with her, because it does make her an actual character.
Yeah, and I think I took the wrong thing when they did that flashback. I sort of thought, like, oh, what was the purpose? Was it just to show us the scar? But then that scene with Mama Bear comes up later, and there's a line she says where I think Susie says, like, well, I broke my arm, and Mama Bear says, well, that's the wrong. You took the wrong lesson from that, as in, like, but you saved the cat, right?
Yes.
And the cat lived a nice long life afterwards.
Yeah. Like, you may have broken your arm, but you did a good thing by saving the cat. And that when that happened, I was like, oh, okay.
It's a better message. Yeah. No, I agree. And it also, again, all those kind of little moments come back to our main character, Shirtless, and he needs to take the right lesson. Like, because up until this point where we're at, he took the wrong lesson. He decided to swear revenge on the bears, because even though it was a small group of these bears that killed the love of his life, he decided, no, I'm going to take them all down because they're all monsters.
Yeah, he decided to fight those bears.
Yeah, and that also leads into kind of how he found out about Burke, because he decided to leave to, like, train and fight all bears, so that's how he ended up fighting that panda with a knife and meeting Burke.
Speaking of fighting bears, we fought some bears earlier before we recorded the podcast, right?
Yeah, because we fought bears so good. Yeah, let's talk about that. And by that, I mean, let's have you talk about that.
Let's have me talk about the drink that we decided to pick this time. So we had this drink called, I did my Google Magic, typed in Shirtless Bear-Fighter cocktail in Google, and what do you know? There's a drink called Bear Fight, and by drink I mean
couple drinks.
Bless
you.
Yeah, thanks.
A sort of event, a kind of sequence scenario of drinks.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, didn't hate it. One of the fun ones, if I'm being honest.
So
we got to enjoy nature.
Yeah.
It's called a bear fight, and I thought that was pretty apt. Honestly, it probably should have been one of the ones that got us too drunk to record, but somehow I don't feel like it quite did that to us.
Well, Higgins, we're on episode 46, all right? We're stronger than ever.
Yeah.
It's going to take a little more than a couple different bombs back to back to bring us down.
Yeah, and so that being said, the drink is just 2 bombs done back to back.
Any two?
Just doing 2 specific ones. The first one, you'll start with an Irish car bomb. I don't know why, but an Irish car bomb is you do about a half a pint of Guinness into a cup, and then you drop a shot glass full of Bailey's or any other, like,
kind of
Irish cream,
Yeah.
basically, and Irish whiskey in a shot glass 1-to-1, and then you drop that bad boy in there and drink it in one solid swoop.
You got to.
I love those.
And then immediately afterwards, you do a Jaeger bomb, which is just any energy drink of your choosing. I've always seen it with Red Bull. You fill that about halfway up the glass, drop a shot of Jägermeister in there, and then knock it back in one swoop, and then you have a little fight in your belly afterwards.
They're fighting so hard right
It
now.
definitely is a fight.
Yeah, I'd like to imagine the reason it's called bear fight is because like the Irish car bomb represents the black bear, which is a little more docile, but also a little tougher. You know, when put up to the test, versus like the Jaeger bomb.
You think a Jaeger bomb's like a grizzly?
I would think more of a grizzly because it's definitely more aggressive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's smoother. You know, it punches through you much faster.
More bubbles.
as a grizzly would. You know, the black bear's going to take its time with you, and that's
Yeah.
probably because of all the Baileys just slowly curdling in that
Oh,
Guinness.
yeah.
Yeah. Again, I cannot stress enough that you drink that Irish car bomb as fast as humanly possible, as
Yeah, 'cause
barely possible.
There's a lot of it makes lumps for whatever reason. It curdles the milk.
Yeah.
And the Irish cream.
I've never heard of two bombs together being considered a drink, but I will say that like it wasn't bad.
Honestly, delightful.
Yeah, like it.
I was surprised that I knocked it back in one go. I'm not usually one for chugging, but bombs are easy to take in one big drink.
Yeah, I mean that's the pressure being put on you though. Higgins. Yeah. But I don't know, Steve. You're not much of a drinker. You indulge us for this podcast. So, what was your overall opinion of this bear fight?
Oh well, I love an Irish car bomb. I got no love for Margaret Thatcher. May she rest in
Steel
in
or iron, whatever she was.
Rest
She's
in
the
the-
Iron Lady, right?
I don't know. Rest in the bad place. The
Oh.
Iron Lady. Yeah. Rest in the bad place for good.
RIH.
Yes, RAH. I'll you know what? It's time to come clean. I have to be honest for the people of the podcast. I didn't fully do the Jaeger bomb. My tum-tum can't handle, I can't handle energy drinks. I didn't do the Red Bull. I didn't do it, guys.
He did take a shot of Jaeger.
I did a shot of Jaeger, and then I followed it up, and this is so smart for anyone who, a lot of caffeine ruins you. Jaeger, do a shot of Jaeger, follow it up immediately with a little splash of soy sauce. I call it the Axis Powers. You come up with your own fun name for it. That was pretty good. I feel good.
Yeah, me as well. Like that's the biggest thing is I didn't know kind of how I was gonna feel about both those back to back, but and maybe it's just because of the order itself. I imagine that if you took say the Jaeger bomb first and then went to the Irish car bomb, you wouldn't feel as light and fresh. But washing all that Bailey's cream down with just a fresh dose of Red Bull caffeine, I'm feeling pretty good, guys.
Yeah, honestly,
yeah.
I hardly feel like I drank anything.
But Higgins,
I wouldn't drive. I wouldn't drive to Atlanta right now, but
you'll go.
I could maybe go around to the corner.
I was gonna say you'll go up to the local Walgreens across the street. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not gonna telling you or anything. So, I recommend it. Maybe keep it as a special occasion kind of thing, though.
Oh
You know?
yeah, don't get too crazy.
Like don't start your mornings with this. All right.
I don't wanna break our fourth wall at all, but I'm gonna. We already did the bear fight. This is the second time we've done a bear fight because we almost recorded and then we didn't, and now we're recording now.
Third time's the charm, isn't
You
it?
like the curtain?
Yeah, pretty much every time that we did those bombs, I was a fan of it. Like he said, probably chugging that much liquid in one go, not the best way to do the drinking, but like now if someone buys me a round of either of those bombs, I'd be happy to take one.
Yeah. And if you still want something to wet your whistle, just grab a Slap Fight IPA like we've done.
Ooh.
You heard it crack open at the beginning of this podcast, and
Luckily, I had something with the word "fight" in it when you requested a beer for this podcast.
it's
Just happened to be in the fridge.
You've really covered all the bases.
Yes.
haven't
What's
you?
nice is like the little it's a Monday night brew, and in the ties they have like POW and WAP and
Oh, like little I didn't even
Yeah,
notice.
little
like
comic book things.
Onomatopoeias.
yeah,
Very good. Very good.
just all tied together.
So well.
It's lovely.
Just so much synergy and, and good things happening. On
Soundboards.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of like tied all together, I think we covered all our bases as far as the book goes. Like, I don't have anything specifically to talk about.
Do you guys? Okay, you guys want to talk about your favorite moments of either like badassery or general absurdness or both? 'Cause
Yeah,
I
that's
had a
fine.
few where I was just like, God, I gotta talk about this because there was just a few moments I just really freaking got a kick out of.
We'll run our favorite moments, get a review in, and then maybe do something else a little bit later.
That sounds
Oh,
excellent.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
No, don't tell me.
No
Don't tell me.
worries.
Hey, don't tell him. Steve, though, you tell us about those moments you were mentioning a second ago.
I've got it open right here, and I just love this so much. Okay, I want to say, I don't think we quite talked enough about it. The action in this series is really, like, just drawn in such a way that it's really easy to follow. I don't read, I'll be honest, don't read a lot of comic books. I do read, I know, I do read a bit of a certain manga. I'll say the name. Can I say the name?
Yeah, you can say the name.
I say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm completely caught up. You guys did tell me this was a JoJo's podcast, and that is the reason I came on, and then I get here and I'm finding out a little different.
It's weird that you keep falling for that trick every time.
You guys get me every time, and it's so fun. Luckily, I've already read these particular it's so interesting because I've already read the particular comics that you asked me, but I think it's a JoJo. Anyway, action can be pretty hard to follow in the stuff that I read. However, in this, action's so easy. You feel the weight of the punches. It helps that it says bear punch each time, which is pretty fun. Every time he punches a bear, it says bear punch. And then when Papa Bear punches someone, it says Papa Bear punch. Really good stuff. But you really feel there's a scene where he's fighting one of these bears, and you really feel like every swipe, every punch.
Are you talking about when he slams him?
He suplexes the bear, and I loved that. It's one of the first pages, no spoiler. He suplexes a bear, and I think there's nothing cooler than that. It was one of those badass moments.
Literally, when you said pick your favorite action moment, that's the one I was thinking about. Because I was looking through the book earlier while we were talking about it, and might I also add about the slam?
Please.
The finest look at that guy's penis is in that scene.
Oh yeah, you really see.
You really see the length of it, because
Yeah.
normally it's like hidden behind his leg. That it's like literally like flying through the air. You can just like see the whole thing.
And then there's another moment too. It's maybe equally as bad, maybe a little bit more. He seismic tosses him. Charizard style grabs him. Okay.
That's Brother Bear that does it to him, right?
Oh, Brother Bear. Yeah. Brother Bear seismic tosses Shirtless, takes him up in the air, God jumps 5 miles into the sky and slams him down on pure concrete. Absolutely wrecks his back. Shirtless gets back up and he's fighting again. So cool, man.
Yeah, super good just fighting in general in this book.
I really love kind of how they handle the words with the punches with the action sequences as well. So shout out to Dave Lempier, who did the letters on that, because you don't pick up on it at first. I feel when they're doing like the bear punch and the Papa Bear punch, it's something to do with the way that it's colored mixed with the way it's lettered. It's kind of in the background, so when you do pick up on it, it's just a nice little treat. My favorite example of that is Shirtless goes to punch his brother, and the brother catches it, so the words cut off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So just really cool stuff there. I really like that. Just a very fun kind of creative way. Lettering's something that Higgins and I never really talk about, and not to like throw shade or take away from any of
Usually
it.
it's just Comic Sans.
Helvetica.
Yeah.
And that's not really enough for me and Higgins, but this was a really good example of just someone having fun with lettering. I really like any and all of that. My favorite kind of absurd moment, which is obvious when you get to it, but you never really thought about it, is like any great superhero, Shirtless Bear-Fighter has a weakness, and it turns out his weakness is just you put a shirt on him, he can't even rip through toilet paper. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
that was.
Oh yeah, I
And his
didn't
shirt
even
is
think
good,
about
too.
that. Oh yeah, the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
It's like it's
That's
so
my
interesting.
favorite pun in the whole book.
It's as if he already had the shirt on him.
The shirt is like a picture of a man, and he has bear arms.
He has bear arms. His arms are those of a bear.
The arms that a bear would have, not naked arms.
Yeah.
Or guns.
So yeah, really, I do really enjoy moments like that, and there's tons of them in this book. Just again, kind of playing with that the absurdity of what's going on in this. I really like I think it's only really one issue we get, but the interactions between Shirtless and Papa Bear, just kind of having that heart to heart and talking about what happened in the past, it's kind of very emotional for both of them because Shirtless was banished, and you find out the reason why he was banished was to protect him and themselves, because Brother Bear was just going way off the deep end, and I guess his parents thought that like this will at least calm the brother down. So it's just little moments like that that kind of remind me, oh no, there's a deeper story in this that they're trying to tell, and I think they do a pretty good job balancing both tones of like sadness and funny.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you had to put like, I don't know, just like any sort of like number or number based like thing saying how much you enjoyed that, what do you think you would like say about that?
How many bear punches?
It's almost like you're giving me a chance to review this book. So well done there. Well, kind of taking all those moments into account and everything we talked about today, I can't think of anything better to give it than 89 flapjacks.
Out of 100?
Just 89.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know. You know, like you call like an amount of pancakes a short stack. I'd like to call this a large stack.
Ooh, I like that.
I give it...
Or a tall stack, sorry. That makes more sense.
A large, tall stack.
I will give it 4 crates of pure maple syrup.
Nice.
4 crates of pure maple syrup.
We're talking at least like 32 bottles of
Carried
pure
in by
maple syrup.
cargo copters, baby. Drop down on my front lawn.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's see Paul Allen syrup.
It's a very fun story. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it doesn't shy away from being that in any way. And so I think that, I mean, you have to love comics to even appreciate anything this is trying to do, I think. And if you've got that, then you'll have a really fun time with this. I mean, even regular people like this comic. Like, not nerds like us, but regular, important people.
Yeah.
The foreword of this is written by
Duncan Jones,
Duncan
the
Jones.
son of David Bowie, the director of Source Code, Moon, and the Warcraft movie. Sorry to cut you off. I love Duncan Jones.
No, I'm glad, because that's basically where I was going. Yeah, the fact that they got him to do it was
I
just
don't know
like,
who that is, but I'm glad you guys do.
yeah, he directed those
Watch,
movies.
watch Moon.
I've seen Moon.
Warcraft is fun too. Then you know Duncan Jones.
No, okay,
Yeah,
I know
that's-
Duncan
Do you
Jones.
know David
Bowie's son.
Bowie?
I didn't know he was David Bowie's son.
That's right.
Yeah, his real name's
Zoe
Zowie
Bowie.
Yeah, Zoe Bowie.
Zoe Bowie.
But he changed it to Duncan Jones.
To sound more normal.
yeah.
Like the
little
opposite
bit. Yeah.
opposite of what most
Well, it's interesting
actors
because
do.
David Bowie's real name is David Jones. He wanted to be Davy Jones, but that was taken by one of the members of, I think, the Monkees.
And the ghost from SpongeBob SquarePants.
You guys didn't think you were going to get some David Bowie facts in this podcast, but boy, have you got them.
You really brought it, Steve, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
One thing I would appreciate now, since we've all talked about the book and reviewed the book,
Banana readings for squared.
Oh,
Higgins, I would love to do that segment, but first I'm gonna have to use the little podcaster's room,
Okay.
if that's okay. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna take this mic and I'm gonna move it to the side like this.
you don't want to take it with you?
Don't worry, I'm gonna go use the other little podcaster's room outside.
Okay, we'll take your mics with you. We can continue this. Guys, come back. I can offer a hand. Well, one each. Is this recording?
Banana readings for squareds.
Oh, Steve really got on board for that theme song.
Yeah.
I
like
got
it.
3 notes in.
Yeah.
It was nice. It felt good. It felt right.
Very good.
Welcome to our side hustle, where we talk about things that aren't comic books, because we know like half the people that listen to this don't care.
Yep, that's right.
What are you talking about?
Well,
I want Snoop to go first because he watched the thing that made me want to read this book in the first place, and he's the only one that got to watch it.
You must be talking about. You can only be talking about.
The Sound of Music, yes.
The Hills Are Alive.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The
of.
Hills Are Alive with the sound of Cocaine Bear.
Exactly, yes. So I did see Cocaine Bear, which is what inspired Higgins to pick Shirtless Bear-Fighter, and you guys haven't seen it, so
He's been talking about how you've seen it and he hasn't. I think he's.
I think it's all he really wanted at the end of the day is just me to go see it and then
Don't-
talk about it.
I think he's.
I want to watch it, I just haven't done it.
You haven't made the time, Higgins, and
Yeah.
the thing is, you really should. Now, you could probably get that on demand in your local home television
Yeah,
store.
that was what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
I have a small bladder. I can't make it through movies as long as much these days.
Well, Higgins, let me tell you that as far as this movie goes, it's a brisk delight, I think.
Okay.
I won't talk too much because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, especially you guys since you haven't seen it. I think I'll only ever watch it that one time, and I also, as a warning to anyone who might be a little kind of skittish around this stuff, it's kind of in the same vein as the story we talked about today, very ridiculous, but there's some
Super
moments
violent.
it's odd how weird and gratuitous it gets at points, but it's still really funny. So Cocaine Bear is loosely based on a true story about a bear that found and ate a bunch of cocaine. Then I think in the real story it walked around for about an hour or two and then just died. But this is more of, well, what if it didn't die and instead just got really violent and ate a bunch of people trying to get more cocaine?
Yeah,
And
I heard like the real bear like went to a bunch of people's campsite and might have like grabbed some like beads and stuff like randoms, like a hat, maybe like a sun hat, and put it on or something like that.
apparently
that's
when they
cool.
found the bear dead, it had a bunch of stuff on it. So they thought at first maybe it killed a bunch of campers, but it turned out nah. But I don't know. This movie's just interesting. It's directed by Elizabeth Banks, the actress lady.
Oh,
So,
nice.
like that's kind of cool. And
yeah,
cool.
this isn't her.
she's
This isn't
directed
her
a couple
debut.
times.
She did Pitch Perfect. One of the
Three
Pitch
seemed like her
Perfects.
normal-
One,
yeah.
yeah. Which Pitch Perfect 3 was pretty ridiculous, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just about, like in the story of the movie, it's just about this bear got a bunch of cocaine, and unfortunately there's some people around while it's tripping out, and it's got a really good cast in it. It's got Ray Liotta's in it,
Oh,
who's
nice.
been dead for almost a year, but
Rest
he's
in
just
peace.
like, yeah, I'll do this movie still. Why not?
Came down from heaven to do the movie.
Yeah, basically, and he's got 3 more on the way apparently.
No way.
Apparently, yeah.
Wow.
Good for him. I hope he continues his streak.
yeah.
But to kind of set the premise of it, there are kind of 3 different stories happening, getting involved with the cocaine bear. There's a couple of drug dealers played by Alden Ehrenreich, who played Han Solo in that Han Solo movie that we all try to forget, and O'Shea Jackson Jr., little ice chip himself. Wow. They're both really good. There's a couple of kids just trying to go to some waterfalls because kids just like to explore. And Carrie Russell plays one of the moms who's trying to look for these kids, and just a bunch of other random people in it. And super fun, super weird, very violent at points. So if that's not your thing, maybe stay away from it. But if you're okay with that, then give it a watch. It's really fun, I think. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I think it's one of those movies that you're like, yeah, I got it the first time, and I don't need to go back. But good experience in the theater, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna go a little off the rails and talk about something that we haven't done before. Something that Michael would be ashamed of me for talking about.
Higgins, don't lose our sponsorship.
I
now.
went and saw a concert the other day. Yep, that's right. I listened to music in the live fashion.
Why?
Cause I like to hang out and see stuff every now and again. I went up to Little 5 Points in Atlanta at the old Variety Playhouse.
Variety Playhouse?
Yeah,
I love
and
that place.
saw Tommy Lafroy and Samya. A couple of
Again?
yeah, it's the second time I've seen Samya.
Wow.
But just the first band's like a couple lady singers, and then the other one is another lady singer that I like a whole bunch. She was my number 1 artist like 2 years ago or something on Spotify.
This
Impressive.
is
Samya?
Samya.
Yeah.
Samya. Okay.
Yeah, and she puts on a great show. She has just like, god dang, she's got like one of the best voices I've ever like heard sing, and she has some good songs. Like she put out a new album, and so she's going on a tour for that. The album's called Honey. It's a good listen. One of the songs on it's called Kill Her Freak Out. Has one of my favorite lines in a song. She like goes back to, she's like, I hope you married the girl from high school. I'm gonna fucking kill her. I'm gonna fucking freak out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry I said the F word twice.
2 out of
Mom,
3 though.
But
2 out
yeah,
of 3.
yeah.
Fuck.
Well, now we're maxed out.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Tommy Lefroy was really great too.
Can you tell me something a little bit about Tommy Lefroy? Because I've been actually listening to some of Tommy Lefroy on
yeah?
your recommendation. Now, is that the name of a band, or is that the name of a lady singer?
No, that's just the name of their band. It's
Okay.
two ladies. I cannot for the life of me remember their names now. I think one of them's
Can I
like
take a
Vanessa.
Tommy. And the other
No,
one's
actually,
Lefroy.
like I have no idea where the name came from. They didn't bring it up in the concert, but
I
neither one
apologize.
of their names is Tommy or Lefroy.
I apologize. I was so wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that does kind of clear things up for me, because the first time I listened to him, I was wondering, I'm like, well, this is just a lady singer, and it's the same lady singer. So is that Tommy?
It's actually 2 lady singers, and like,
Is that allowed?
it kind of sounds like, you know, Phoebe Bridgers when she's like doing her double voice in her like songs, but in actuality, 2 lady singers singing on top of each other.
I don't know how I feel.
Pretty
about
good,
that,
pretty
but
good, pretty
music,
good.
yes,
Yeah, good tunes. They put on a good show. Samia puts on a great show. She's dancing around. She's having a fun time. She's singing really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And then I ran into one of my good buddies too, so that was also kind of cool.
What a treat!
Good job.
That's a good day. Yeah.
It was a good day all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm glad I went.
hopefully,
I went with Bethany.
Yes,
I've mentioned her name before.
We've seen her on the podcast walk
Yeah.
through before. Yeah. She's not walking through right now that I know of.
She'll be here soon, but probably not by the time we're done.
Well,
so.
she's really gonna regret listening to this episode, knowing
Yeah.
that she missed out on that cameo. But maybe she'll get to make it up later in the year. We'll talk about that one day.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
Steve, have
Steve,
you
you-
checked anything out?
Non-reading related?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
non-reading related.
Ooh, man, lately, guys.
God,
I mean,
I
you
know.
both know this.
I already know.
You both know this. I've been watching, and it's a long time coming. I've been watching Better Call Saul. What an incredible golly. Just some good legal drama with some other kinds of drama mixed in.
Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk, one of
You know
the
him from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. He's reprising his role as Saul Goodman. Well, now, spoiler alert, Jimmy McGill, who is a sort of prequel.
Oh, a prequel.
I don't know anyone who doesn't know about Better Call Saul. If you don't, it's a prequel to and sort of spin-off of Breaking Bad. A certain character in there was a lawyer named Saul Goodman, because it's Saul Goodman, and such a good character they gave him his own 7 season series.
Multiple season.
So many seasons, more than I could ask for. Series, just good legal drama, great characters and character development.
How long have you been watching it for?
I've been watching it for about a week and a half, and
How far are you?
I am on season 3, episode 6. I've been really banging this. I've been banging this thing out. I love it so much. And you know what? Let me add: if you like comedy, don't like drama, I seriously can't recommend Mr. Show with Bob and David. It's got Bob Odenkirk, the guy who plays Jimmy McGill, aka Saul Goodman. One of the better things I've seen on TV. It's on HBO. You can find it there. They didn't pay me. I just like Bob Odenkirk a lot.
He's a
Yeah, I
good
liked him in
guy,
that Nobody movie he made too.
Oh yeah, where he fights guys.
Yeah, where he fights guys.
That movie's cool. I need to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
I kind of going back to Better Call Saul. I haven't finished it. You're almost caught up with me, I think, because of where I stopped. But one thing I really appreciated about that show was thematically how it kind of ties in with Breaking Bad. I've always thought what's interesting about Breaking Bad is it's about a guy you think is just like a good, innocent person coming into his own as just the worst guy in the city.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's flipped for me. You know, Jimmy McGill at his heart is a good
He's
person.
a good guy.
But to survive in kind of the situations that he's put in and the environment he finds himself in, has to create this character that's just the worst guy who takes advantage of everybody.
He makes slimy, admittedly slimy decisions. I think, he knows they're not the best decisions, but it's what he knows how to do and what he knows what he knows to do to like sort of gain a foothold, gain an advantage, get what he needs to be done to end up doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And you watch him make all these bad decisions that are ultimately, I think, for the betterment of himself and others. And God, you can't help but love him. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Bob Odenkirk is great in that role. It's a very different show compared to Breaking Bad when you think about kind of, there's a little bit of kind of crazy action sequences and drug lords and whatever, but like the harder moments are in the courtroom. He has this kind of weird thing with his brother, like this tension and rivalry, and to see that come to a head, which I think is what happens in the season you're in.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, I just saw
awesome.
it, and I saw like one of the only things I've seen of the show.
It's very well done, and not at all what I thought would come from a prequel show about the skeezy lawyer from Breaking Bad, but very, very well written and well done.
I still need to finish Breaking Bad too.
And not to go at length, I know some people were put off by Breaking Bad because, like, some might think Walter's sort of an unrelatable character. Starts off as a good guy who ends up just becoming ostensibly like a villain to any reasonable person. Better Call Saul doesn't have that. So if that's something you're squeamish about, but you still want to get into the kind of the fantasy world of New Mexico,
Yeah, because it doesn't exist.
yeah, of course.
That's why they called it New Mexico.
New Mexico.
There was already Mexico.
It's like
so they made a
Metropolis,
new-
New York. It's
fake.
fake.
When are we going to give attention to old Mexico?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, come on. But you know, I think something Better Call Saul does so much better than Breaking Bad is how relatable and how empathetic the characters are. You really feel for them, and you just want them all, not all, you want most of them to come out all right, and you know, you'll see how that happens.
Or
Watch the
doesn't
show.
happen,
They don't pay me.
I'm super excited to see it once you're done because I don't want to mess up the spot that you are on my Netflix account.
Ooh, I didn't. You know what? Very generous and kind.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. With that, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna sweep the things under the door. Say goodbye to all the people listening to us with their ears, their noses, and their mouths.
I'm waving goodbye.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is Mike J Higgins 93, and
Is that what Twitter is?
Instagram Mike Higgins 93. I don't remember. One of those. You can find me on there. You can find me more better on Instagram at jsturm93.
Yeah, and if you want, you guys can follow me at Pancakes Movie Food on Instagram. That's PANK_aches, like headaches, _movie food, one word. I just post food that other people have made for me. Professional chefs, who, not to brag, professional chefs have cooked for me. Really good pictures of really good food. And I want followers. It would make me feel good about myself.
It's a great account.
Okay.
He eats some good food.
Man.
Okay, good. Well, I'll give that a follow. That sounds very interesting to me. What kind of food you eating though? Because I'm allergic to certain things. and
Lemons.
Oh.
There is a lot of lemons. I noticed.
I eat mostly lemons.
Oh, okay. I don't think I'm allergic to those, so I'll check that out. And
Yeah.
You guys should check it out.
And you can find Snoop at Instagram, Snoop_Lynch. I think he's using that a little bit. And then you can find both of us at thecomixologyclub at 0-8studios.com. And I think there's probably a link at the bottom of the notes for that if they don't want to type all that out.
Higgins, you're absolutely right. But what's crazy is that they don't even need to refer to that link because you said the email exactly as it's written for the first time ever. So turns out all you needed was Steve in the room to give you the confidence to get that right. So yes, if you want to email both me and Higgins, we've had a couple people do it in the past. Michael sends us emails about the company and updates through that.
Oh,
That's
yeah?
good. But yes, if you
I
want to
haven't
talk to
looked at
us,
it since the last time we looked at it.
who knows when that was. But yes, send us an email. Tell us about books you be reading or books you want us to read or just anything else in general. We love to talk via email. And if you don't want to type that out, you don't have to. It's at the podcast description link, along with all the other things I've mentioned that's down there. Maybe a fun little description of this episode by Higgins Sturm himself.
Yeah, we never really talk about that. I write all those things. I know you guys might not read them, but I put a lot of work into them.
Just look at him, Steve.
I see them.
Also, I don't think we got any reviews, any new ratings. We'd love if you guys did that. 5 stars,
very good.
preferably. Any stars, really. A review, we'll probably read it on the podcast. And if you send us an email, we'll do our other
We'll do that occasional segment we do.
where we read the emails
Yes.
out. I think I plagiarized like a Lizzie McGuire song about it or soming like that.
Yeah, I'm still getting calls about that. So
Disney's not happy.
no, they are not.
I actually spoke with Bob Iger.
Yeah.
He's upset. He's upset. to say the least.
However, we have been approached to cameo on this 3rd season of How I Met Your Father.
Congratulations.
That's super cool.
That's good.
Very good.
They probably did need a person to be a podcaster boy on there.
I mean, it's so hot right now. That market is so saturated.
Yeah.
We're going to get buried behind thousands of other podcasts. But if you're listening to this and you want to continue listening to this, Higgins and I will be back next month to talk about a book that I have chosen. That
Oh yeah, I forgot we had to tell people what we're reading.
from time to time, we'd like to tell people about that. Yes, so if you want to come back and listen to me and Higgins.
I don't even know what it is yet.
Well, Higgins, if you shut up, I'll tell you right now, all right? Jeez. All right, so what I've decided to do, since it's my turn to pick, is, as you know, the Dungeons and Dragons movie is coming out this week, right?
Under my
Yeah, I'm
thieves.
super
I'm
excited
excited
to see
as a
that.
player of a game such as Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. And
Wow.
Hey, me too. I play with Steve.
Yeah, we play games.
You guys are so super cool and neat. I
You
love
can
all of
come
that.
in every now and again.
You should
if you
play
want
with
to.
us one day.
See, you guys say that, but I never get an official evite through my email.
It's tough.
To send an email? I
The
agree.
invitation process is difficult.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you could just work on that.
We want
We'll get
you,
our
though.
people to talk to.
We'll talk to
your
our people. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So what are we reading?
Oh yeah. So sorry. So
Are we going to read the second volume of Die?
Higgins, we're gonna read the second volume of Die.
That's so tight.
Yeah. I just thought it appropriate because I want to see the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and I thought I'd love to talk about a book that's related to Dungeons and Dragons. And when you know it, we've already read a book about that. So let's just get into the next volume of it.
Yeah,
so
that
we're
sounds
gonna
good.
be reading Die, Volume 2, called Split the Party.
Oh, that's
Oh,
a
never do
terrible
that.
idea.
Never do that.
Yeah, it's not a good idea as far as I know. Not ever having played Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, no, you
Not unless
definitely
you're
should not.
the mystery gang
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and Scooby-Doo fame.
So join us for that. I think it'll be a pretty good time. I really enjoyed the last volume of Die that we read. I remember a girl lost an arm, and that's just a recipe for success.
Yeah, and they got thrust into a magical world, kind of like Jumanji.
Yeah.
It's die like as in die as in death, but also die as in like a 6-sided or a 20-sided die, like a
Yeah, 20-sided die.
knuckle bones.
Yeah.
You know it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So let's get into that next month. But for right now, let's close up that shop. You've set all the plugins. We're going to follow Steve's Movie Food Instagram account. I'm really excited about that. Until then, though, I will leave and say both cheers, guys, and of course, get that egg in you, Higgins. I didn't forget. I may have changed our email signature to that.
What is this? Get that egg in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you listen to the last episode, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I know about
Oh, no,
it.
you're not quite caught up yet. It's fine.
Of course.
It's all right. And of course, thank you, Steve, for
Yeah, thanks
being
for
on this
coming on,
episode.
buddy.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, we're always happy to have you on, and hopefully have you on again in the future, where you can continue to be the most recurring guest we have.
Until someone fights me for the title, and I do mean fight. Shirtless Bear fights me for the title.
Okay, good. You're both shirtless, yes?
Correct. Both of us shirtless, and we're bear fighting. Bear fighting.
Good. All right. Well, in the meantime, you say a sign off, Steve.
Peace.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Higgins, how you gonna top that this month?
Bing, bang, pow, wham, shoot, bear punch, bear kick, bear slam.
It's good. All of that. I love all of that.
I put my shirt back on.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Postscript. I thought it would be funny if we called alcohol bear punch during the episode, and then I never got to do it. But I think it would be nice to have as a postscript. Now you guys can all call it bear punch. Thank you. Good night.